That's right. I said that's a story.
For the first time.
Well, we wish him well. He worked very hard.
President Trump's speaking publicly about former top aide Rob Porter, who resigned after allegations of domestic violence became public.
It was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad. Now, he also, as you probably know, he says he's innocent. And I think you have to remember that.
But tonight, new concerns about who knew what when about the accusations against Porter. Chief of Staff John Kelly, late tonight with NBC News, confirming he'd known for 3 months about an investigation.
In November, I got an update on some of the investigations, and the update was that there was some things that needed to be looked into. Literally, that was it.
Can you clarify to us exactly? There's been a lot of reporting about the timeline and when you found out about
Tuesday night.
You found Tuesday night?
That the accusations were true. Yeah. 40 minutes later, he was gone.
That's the same night the White House released a statement from Kelly, lavishing praise on Porter, calling him a man of true integrity. That timeline creating questions of credibility. Now, multiple sources close to the president tell NBC News Donald Trump is frustrated with his chief of staff for mishandling the Porter scandal, even musing about possible replacements, including budget head Mick Mulvaney. And while Kelly called the allegations against Porter true, the president did not go that far.
He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
No mention there from President Trump of the women who accused Porter of physical and verbal abuse, like Jenny Willoughby, who was interviewed by the FBI, worried her ex-husband could be vulnerable to blackmail.
He was curious what I was going to say. He really wanted to know, what are you going to tell them? And I told him I'm going to tell them the truth.
John Kelly tonight is denying reports that he offered to resign, telling NBC News twice that is not the case. But I'm told by a source close to the chief of staff that he is feeling irritated, that he continues to be dogged by fallout from this Porter scandal.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.